The Lawyer Who Rocks is brought to you by Hughes Media Law Group. You can visit HMLG at hmlglaw.com. Keep up with the podcast on social media at HMLG Law on all major platforms, and be sure to follow us there. Thank you for listening and enjoyed this episode of The Lawyer Who Rocks. My name is Jolene Winther Hughes. I am a lawyer who rocks.
When it comes to having your back, there ain't nobody better. This you better believe. Jolene.
Today, my guest is a true enigma, a former pro snowboarder turned CEO and mom. She's overcome concussions, broken bones, slipped discs, living in her car, and crippling stress, all while publishing books and creating a string of highly successful companies. If anyone's earned her stripes as a gritty global entrepreneur, it's my guest today, Nicole Donnelley, the founder and CEO of saltywaffle.com, the CMO of Tisbest Philanthropy, and also a coveted executive coach. Welcome, Nicole. I'm so excited to delve in today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love the way you share my experience. It makes me sound like such a badass.
We're so excited that you're here. I want to get to know about your background because I don't know that I've ever met or heard of someone that has such a cool background as you. So where are you from originally?
I was born in California in Ridgecrest, which is in the desert out in the middle of nowhere. We lived in a trailer, like a mobile home, and went to a really strict private Lutheran school where I started learning German from first grade. And that little thread, a glimpse into a different culture, has carried me around the world. And so even though I was in a school where there were two kids in my grade, once we moved to Utah when I was in fifth grade, I got to meet more people. And then I was an exchange student in Germany when I was in junior high school. And so just out of all my family, I kind of had the most taste for travel. And when I started my first company, it allowed me to travel. Our biggest trade show in the world happened to be in Germany. And I just have such an appreciation for other cultures and languages that started at a really young age in a really odd place.
Well, what's so cool about that is you obviously built a career on communications. Do you think that that was really a precursor to you becoming such a great communicator?
Yeah, I think so. I have this desire. I mean, it's the desire to be understood and the desire to understand others that, was, I guess, probably the seed was planted with learning German when I was a kid. And then I had a lot of Mexican friends and learned Spanish. I took Spanish in university too. And I've just always loved other cultures. And so with my first company, I went to 25 different countries in the first 3 years. And we were able to do well in the other countries because of that cultural empathy.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that when you travel, when you learn other cultures, it makes you such a better global citizen. How did you become a professional snowboarder? Was it something that you started as a hobby, or did you have a goal to be professional?
Oh man, I so fell into it. So when I was young, I grew up doing dance and gymnastics. And we had a trampoline in the backyard. And so I was always flipping and, I like that physical activity. I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm sporty. Then when I got on a snowboard when I was 16 in Utah, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I fell so much. I hated it. And then I took it as a class in university. I went to school in Utah. And so every Sunday I'd go up and have lessons because the mountains were right there. Once I got the hang of the basics, I wanted to start flipping off of everything. And I was 19 years old when I learned to snowboard. And I started competing the next season. I went full time, moved to Park City when I was 20. And I just loved it so much because it was so freeing and it was so much fun. And if you've ever ridden freshies and gotten air, it's the most fun and freeing feeling. And so I finished university when I was 20. And then I told my parents, I'm like, I'm going to live in my car and snowboard. They were not thrilled. They're like, get your master's. You're never going to go back to school if you don't do it now. I did that for a number of years, just kind of lived out of my car and competed in snowboarding.
So what is that like? Because I think that, when you watch like the X Games and now the Olympics and you see, people that are professionals, I think that there's a reality versus the star quality of it all. So I'd love to hear, like, what is it like to be a professional? Like, what is your day-to-day life?
I mean, it just wreaks havoc on your body. So every day you ride. And I think if I could go back and do it, maybe I wouldn't have ridden so much, but I had so much fun with it, and I had so many injuries. I got more than 20 concussions. I broke my leg. My first season in Park City, I would, eat my breakfast burrito, riding up the chairlift. I'd go ride a bit and then I worked on the hill. So I would go to work for a bit and then probably ride some more until I couldn't or until my night shift started at my job that I had. In a way, it was really simple because it was like eating, working, and riding. And that was nice. And then you'd have injuries and recovery, taking care of them and trying to figure out eating, working, and riding while recovering was a big thing because if you're pushing yourself and going and getting some big air, then there are a lot of serious injuries that come with that.
When did you transition out of that? Was there any sort of moment that you knew, I'm not doing this anymore? Was there an event?
Yeah, there was. So I had broken my leg doing big air at the X Games, and I was in that recovery mode. And I had ridden the summer after because I'd ride in the summers too. And then the next season, I got back on my snowboard. I had registered for a border cross and I put my bib on, and there was fresh snow that day. And I was like, why am I doing this border cross when I really just want to go get the freshies and have fun? I don't need this anymore. And so I took off my bib and I went and rode freshies and never looked back.
Well, I mean, one of the things you said about just sort of your mentality of your snowboarding career, I think that this sets the stage for your entrepreneurial, when you became an entrepreneur. But just how do you get there? How do you get from being a professional snowboarder? Obviously, you became a mom in between there, and then to actually start a company. Like, what was that transition?
Well, my daughter had diaper rash when she was little because, well, we thought it was all the foods that we were introducing. Zucchini, she'd get a diaper rash. So I cut off my snowboard socks, pulled them up over her knees, and it protected her knees when she was crawling. And she could have a naked bum. I've got pictures of her with her baby legs, her homemade ones out on Alki. And I used to make skirts for her too, just little ones. I mean, it could be my pajama pants. I'd cut off the bottom and like make a little skirt for her. And I have pictures of her on the beach with those first ones on. It made potty training easier too, because then she could just go and not have underwear on. It made such a big difference in my life that any parent doing this whole diaper-free parenting and elimination communication had to have the product. And that was our first little niche that we got into and served was the diaper-free parents. And I sold like 100 pairs out of my diaper bag in the first couple of weeks, just to the moms groups that I belong to. And so I got such good feedback on it. And I went to PCC in West Seattle one day and a woman stopped me in the parking lot and she's like, those are the cutest things I've ever seen, on my daughter. And she thought that I should sell them and, that it should be a business. And then we had the baby legs stickers on the back of the cars on the windows. Our employees would get them and we'd pay for their car payments. And we would get notes left on the car of, how much they love the product, how much it changed their lives, whether it was more quality time with their kids, like somebody who had twins and had to do diaper changes all the time would just do baby legs in a onesie and it made his life easier. He said it saved him 30 minutes, like every diaper change, and he could spend more quality time with his kids. And when you get these people who their lives are better because of what you're doing, and, with the children's hospitals and kids wearing braces and having different things going on, it helped with that. It was really fuel to keep going.
What was the biggest sort of maybe surprise or obstacle you ran into when you founded Baby Legs?
Oh my gosh, it was daily. I was so oblivious. I was so oblivious to business terms. I studied art and German and history in school. I did not know what LOC, like a letter of credit, or any of these simple terms were. I did not know what a balance sheet or P&L was. I didn't know any of that stuff. And I Googled to learn this. Now there's like the Entrepreneurs Organization Accelerator Program, things like that, man, if I would have had those back in the day, It'd make the learning so much faster. I learned so much because I just really had no clue when I started. I call that my naive optimism that was really fortunate because I didn't know all the stuff I didn't know. And so I just went forward. And now knowing what I know, starting something else, I feel like that's almost a disadvantage because I know the work that goes into it and I know all the things we need to do. And so it seems a lot heavier.
You take it as it comes, so you just solve it, right?
I guess the biggest thing is just ask. So now you can go to Clubhouse, you can go wherever, and you can ask these questions and you can go through any problems a lot faster with a lot more support. It's really, really available online. If you're starting a business, you can have people answer your questions in 2 seconds if you pop on the right place, like pop into a Clubhouse room, somebody will answer your question. That's what I always tell people. It's like, don't just sit there and be stuck on your own. Ask someone for help. There are millions of people in the world that are ready to help you.
When you started Baby Legs, did you anticipate having an exit strategy?
No, I never thought I'd sell it. And I had gone to this, I don't know, some event at a law firm downtown, and they were talking about an exit, and there was this due diligence binder. And I had the due diligence binder in my office, always prepared with all the documents and what the discipline that the company had to have all the information all the time, like with our dashboards and reporting and our ERP system, like all the technology to run the company as if I could sell it at any moment, made us really profitable. And I never intended on selling it, but we always had transparency into everything from shopping cart abandonment to the inventory turns, like how fast everything was selling, how fast we need to order it. We had distributors in 85 countries. So to keep everything neat, tidy, and organized, it made it so that when it was time to sell, it went really fast. And I never had intended on selling.
So once you get to the point where you're going to sell Baby Legs, how did that feel to you? And like, how did that raise your profile as part of a successful entrepreneur selling a company?
I feel like it was all a big illusion. I was really lucky in that at the end of 2008, the bank that we were with, when everything came crashing down, it was December 15th when they turned off credit cards, bank accounts, lines, loans, everything just ceased for a couple of weeks, right? Back then. And so that was the time of year when we had the most invoices out, the least amount of cash in the business, and I had no access to cash to pay my employees. We had just shipped like $500,000 of product to Target. It was the busy season. And 2 days after that, the CEO of the company that bought me, he called me, and I'd had these calls before, but he called me from Target headquarters. And he said, my COO said, I need to call you. Target loves your colors. Like, who are you? What's your company? Tell me about this, because he just kept hearing about us. And they had never acquired a brand before. In January, we had our first meeting. So in December, also, I had no money to pay payroll or anything at this time. And he didn't know about the situation at that time. He did find out. One of my employees, Andrew French, he lent me $120,000 so that I could make payroll for the next 6 weeks until the Target money started coming in. And I ended up paying him back. It was the end of February, 1st of March. We paid him back the $120,000 that he had lent us. The bank called my line of credit due, turned it into a loan because they were going under. And it just made it so I couldn't operate my business. I had 2 friends that offered me $500,000 each so that I could pay off the bank and keep things running. And at the time, I didn't have confidence in myself, to pull it through. And I also needed a line at the bank to keep growing the business because it needed to finance the inventory, because we would have these cash gaps, which I learned about like just in time to make it through 2008 and still be break even. But the cash gaps of when we had to pay for inventory compared to when we got paid by our customers. And it just got bigger and bigger as we grew. We closed the deal by April 15th. It was really fast. We set up NetSuite. All the systems and process that we had set up would have let us scale, probably quadruple our business, because we set up for multiple inventory tracking. We had 3 different warehouses because we had one specifically for Japan. Japan alone was over $1 million a year in baby leg warmers. And it was a lot of that international business that helped keep us afloat, through that. We lost probably half our customers from September to December because they all went out of business that year. When we figured out the business, they did it based on the past sales and profit. And so the sale price was rumored to be a lot more than it was, and it was still not bad. But having everything really organized made it go through faster, for sure, because some people can spend 12, 18 months going through due diligence.
Tell me about like this next phase of your career. Like what made you decide to go work for other people?
I was asked by my friend, I think this was the first one that I did. I do interim CMO gigs, right? Where it's a part-time, sometimes it could be full-time, and there's usually a timeline on it, not more than a couple of years. Sometimes they're shorter. And I get to get my hands into other people's businesses, and I love that. I think it's so much fun. If I have autonomy, budget, and authority, I will so like kick butt for them. I can help them to build their team and create systems and process that somebody else who wants to be full-time can maintain after I'm gone. And so I come in when people are growing. Sometimes it's when they start out, but then there was a company that's like 10, 15 years old, but they were ready to invest in growth. And within 3 months, I took them from $2 million in recurring revenue to over $15 million in recurring revenue. And that was like a 3.5-month campaign, and training their internal team. It was in so many different languages too, which is kind of fun. Everybody in the office spoke a different language. We were doing SEO for content in, all these different countries. I did a fintech startup where we were starting from nothing, but we were funded to going public. And that was just over 2 years. I think it's fun, and it's like I get to play in their businesses. I get to learn the industry. I get more relationships. And right now I'm working with an awesome nonprofit in Seattle, and that's Tis Best. They run the nonprofit like a business because they sell charity gift cards. And I get to leverage my business relationships because I think about who I get to take in to them, and I have a lot of business owner friends now, and I get to leverage my business relationships to help them grow the business portion of that, like for corporate gifting using these charity gift cards, things like that. And doing the charity stuff too is so nice. It feels so nice. I get to work with St. Jude's Hospital. We just featured West Side Baby, who I used to donate to when we lived in West Seattle. And so I was really excited that I could highlight them and feature them. And I have a new podcast that's called Redefine Gifting, and it's through them. And I share heartwarming stories of philanthropy and charity. So I get to interview really awesome people doing such good, amazing things in the world.
How important and how much effort needs to go into creating a social presence and brand?
Well, I will tell you now, the biggest reason that companies will fail is because they're underfunded. And it is highly competitive. You do have to make a lot of noise. And some people will say, oh, you can do it for free with organic, and you still have to know what you're doing. You still have to produce amazing content. So some people who are creators can do well organically. Often you're paying someone to do your social posting, and you have to pay for your promoted posts. There are ways that you can, do things organically, but then usually if you're not someone like me, you're hiring somebody like me to be able to pull these things off. So you've got to be able to spend the money on it. Like I'm working on a project of my own right now, and we're saving up our pennies so that we can put it into boosted posts, promoted ad, like Google ads, things like that, because I know that in that industry, that's what we have to do to win. You can get press, you can have a good story, but then you need money to produce product. With services, it's a little different. But if you're doing consumer products, you've got to have the money to promote it. And so I would say like the cheapest you could probably get away with is $30,000 to $40,000
A year or a month?
to start out a product company. because you need product, you need a good amount that you can give away, and you need to get press, and you need to be everywhere on social.
Maybe give a couple of tips that if you're sort of a do-it-yourselfer, like what are 2 or 3 tips that you could give for someone trying to launch a product, like what they can do to sort of try to start moving that ball in the right direction?
Well, you've got to have a super emotionally compelling story, and you have to know who your customer is. Your story needs to compel somebody to support you, is basically what it is in the conversion, that they believe in you, that they believe in what you have, and they believe that what you have is going to make their lives better. And that story is so important to be able to tell. And then to amplify the story. So on the Salty Waffle site, there's /content studio. That is our favorite tool for automating. And you can put in one post and have it go out to all the different places. We've got articles on where you can get the most organic mileage right now, which is Pinterest stories, by the way, because it's a good search engine. But you kind of need to have this omnipresence now, or like really dominate it in one platform. Like if you're super good at Instagram, but Instagram just doesn't convert that well. You need to have develop all your properties, and you need to start putting houses, and some properties you put hotels on. Pinterest, and depending if your service is LinkedIn, but Pinterest is where you would want to build your hotels.
How do you feel about TikTok?
TikTok's awesome. And for some people, they can do well selling on TikTok. If they're a creator and popular TikToker, they can totally sell a ton that way. Some young kids are making tons of money doing it. Because they'll sell merchandise because they just happen to be TikTok famous. And there are doctors getting on there. There are yogis. There's all sorts of people leveraging it. And I think that the social network you participate on kind of needs to match your personality, the one that you get good at first. And not everybody's a TikToker, so then you want to partner with people in that space. And strategic partnerships is what will really grow a business exponentially. With Baby Legs, we used to have an email newsletter that was Friends of Baby Legs, and we'd tell all of our people on the list about who we liked, which at the time was novel. And people would say, that's terrible. Retailers and customers only have so much money. Why would you tell them to buy other people's stuff, not yours? Because they're not always interested in ours. It's not that interesting. So with Tis Best, we are getting in a newsletter that goes to 7 million people. And I'm super excited about it, but that will bring more eyeballs just through that newsletter. And it's because I did a podcast interview with Jim McCann, who founded 1-800-Flowers. And he's going to put that out to everybody.
Do you ever feel intimidated by reaching out to people?
I don't feel intimidated by reaching out. And I mean, that's like from my childhood days and refusing to take tests. Like when I was little, I have an issue with authority, which the good side of that is I'm not afraid to talk to people because I don't hold anybody as they're in that authority position, for better or worse. And people are people. Like I hooked up my friend with Richard Branson, and he got to go meet with him and have a conversation. And I have some other people on my cell phone that if the moment is right, where it's a benefit to them, then I will make the introduction. And the people that you might be intimidated, you might not need something for yourself or want something. There's opportunities to build relationships, like with press. And I'm sure you know this. If you can introduce them to other people that'll make their lives better, then if you ever need anything, you want to interview them, you want to talk to them, they are happy to do it. So it's that like give before you ask sometimes, and sometimes it's just an ask.
What you just said, like I got tingles because everything I've ever done in my entire life has been that, like where I've, you're just going to do it. Going to open a pub? Okay, we're going to open a pub. You know what I mean? Going to start a law firm? Going to start a law firm. And it's like, I love to inspire other women to also believe that, because I think that fierceness isn't necessarily, there's this, hopefully in the generations that are coming up, and like your daughter, and as we're inspiring, hopefully other women, I want that to be not a barrier for people, not just women, but people, like any person. Like I want everyone to feel empowered to be able to do whatever it is that they want to do and just do it.
Yeah. And we have to be prepared to raise our children that it's okay to ask and it's okay to do what you want, and not squash that in them.
And not make them do what would work for us, because everybody has a different level of where they're at and their personality and what they feel comfortable with.
Yes. And a lot of parents aren't prepared to let their children make the choices for themselves about things. You interviewed Alyssa Leon, and I love her. Our kids went to kindergarten together, and her mom gave me a piece of advice. And this was the best parenting advice I ever got. And that's, you don't have to pick every battle. You do have to win the ones you pick. And I have raised my daughter with that, of not picking every battle. And she's almost 17 now. And, she'll tell you she doesn't feel like she has a leash at all here. And she can do what she wants. And she's the best kid. And we have so much fun together. We still go on road trips together and, share a bed and don't get tired of each other of a week 24/7 with each other. And it's that I let her be whoever she's going to be. And, I was given this little seed and I water it. I don't know if she's going to be a rose bush or an oak tree. And I just give her what she needs consistently. And she's blossoming into this amazing human being. And I'm proud of her for doing the things that she wants to do in life. She had to wait 6 months to take a coaching ethics course because she wants to teach horse riding. And she's figuring out all the steps she needs to do. I'm doing nothing to help her get certified. She's doing it all on her own. And, she has these things that she wants to do. And when she puts her mind to it, she'll do it. And she will ask people, and, just watching her confidence, because it kind of goes down for a bit, usually with girls in their teenage years, and then, coming back up and supporting her in her getting to her best life and her best self. And I think that's our responsibility as parents, is to really be curious about what our kids are going to be instead of molding them. And that way we can raise a generation of kids who know, who are out there in the world and curious about the world and are able to get along with each other and find their way.
Do you take that philosophy into your executive coaching?
Yes. Yes, I do. And with my employees too, I will always know what people's goals are. And having a marketing company, a lot of people are there for a couple of years because we do a lot of social media. And so they get bored and they want to move on to something else. And so we have that conversation from day one about what they want to do. And if anybody approaches them, I will help them find another job, get a better deal, make more money. I have no problem with that. I know, on this earth, I am a transitional person for people, and I help them get to that next step in life. And with one of my coaching clients, he hired me because they were losing like $200,000 a year, and he wanted to find out why. Well, I found out why. I dug through their books and interviewed everybody, and we found out, we plugged the holes, stopped it completely. But in getting to know him and what his vision was, he actually didn't want to run a company. That's not what made him happy. What made him happy was building cool things. So we organized it. So he rented out office space in the company that he wanted to acquire him. And that company had been giving them work. And so now they're giving him more work, and they eventually acquired him, so that he just gets to build cool things all the time. He has his team that he had built that he still gets to work with. And he doesn't have to take on the additional stress of running a business. And the intention wasn't to sell his company in the beginning. And that's what ended up happening.
What is your most favorite thing that you're working on now? And what do you see happening in the next few years for yourself?
Tis Best Philanthropy. So tisbest.org has the charity gift cards. We're on a mission to get as many corporations as we can using these for corporate gifts, whether it's client gifts or employee gifts, and stop giving so much stuff as kind of a environmental, that's our little small part. And it also gives you the good feeling when you get a charity gift card, you get to donate to your own favorite charity. And there's just this feeling of love that's perpetuated. That's why I like it so much. And then a few years ago, I wrote this book, the Happy Camper Guidebook, and we're developing the curriculum, and we're doing these text lessons that have the 4 levels of emotional intelligence ingrained. So it'll be like signing up from text messages from your girlfriend who gives you these emotionally intelligent sort of exercises to do on a daily basis. And I'm really excited to get that out there because it'll help with employees and kids and everything. The transformation with the happy camper model, you go from having this drama in your life to having this peace and ease. And I've seen it in so many people and so many families that I've worked with privately that, the mission with Happy Camper is to bring joy to a billion souls.
Beautiful mission.
We've reached over 3 million so far, and we have a long ways to go, but that's what I'm up to. And with Tis Best and the relationship with St. Jude's and some of the others, we're going to be having Happy Camper in the children's hospitals and have it available. So it's kind of coming full circle back to helping children and families just have more peace and joy in their lives.
I love that. Well, gosh, it's just so fun to talk to someone with such an amazing background, and you're so committed to helping people and by bringing joy to people's life and, I don't know, entrepreneurship, teaching, coaching. I mean, you're just doing it all, and the tools that you're providing, just so inspirational. I'm just so in awe of you. I think you are a badass for all these different reasons. And I would love to know what makes you a badass in your own eyes.
Well, the thing that I'm most proud of about myself right now, honestly, is my relationship with my daughter and how we can have conversations about anything and have it be, again, it's that peace and ease. Those are my words for the year. And a lot of people will say, oh, you've got a 16-year-old daughter, 17-year-old almost. That must be hard or challenging or whatever. It's like, she's so amazing and our relationship is so amazing. And I've worked for, 16 years on this relationship, and to see it where it is now, these are the seeds that I planted when she was little, in choosing time ins instead of time outs, like being the safe person to talk to for her. And, I do that for my employees too, and the people that I work with, so that I'm a safe space. But that relationship with my daughter is something that I really treasure and I'm proud of.
That's beautiful. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I think your story is going to be so inspirational to so many people, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Lawyer Who Rocks. If you've enjoyed it and want to hear more from business badasses, make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. While you're at it, please give us a review. It really helps us grow the show. The Lawyer Who Rocks is produced by Sean Fox and HMLG. If you've got an idea for a podcast, you can find Sean online at sfpodcast.com. A big thank you to Aaron Jones for our theme music, to Jeff Gilbert at Hairball Media for our awesome artwork, and thanks to my entire team at HMLG. If you need a lawyer who rocks, find us at hmlglaw.com. On the next episode,
I sometimes can look at everything I do and see chaos or think I really need to focus in on one thing. But when I step away, I am like, yeah, it's badass that I pull all this stuff off.
This podcast has been brought to you by HMLG. If you need lawyers who rock, visit us on our website at hmlglaw.com, or be sure to follow us on social media at hmlglaw or at The Lawyer Who Rocks on all social media platforms. Well, you are. That's why you're here.